Welcome back, true crime aficionados, to another gripping episode. Today, we delve into a chilling case from the heart of Oxford, England, that unraveled a web of forbidden love, cultural conflict, and a shocking act of violence. In 2004, a young student was found brutally murdered in his car, a scene so gruesome it baffled initial investigators. But as the layers of this mystery peeled away, the truth emerged. Far more sinister and heartbreaking than anyone could have imagined. Prepare yourselves, because this is the story of Arash Ghorbani. The grim discovery in Rose Hill. Our story takes us to the historic city of Oxford, England, specifically to the quiet, unassuming neighborhood of Rose Hill. It was the evening of November 20th, 2004, around 11:30 p.m. A routine patrol officer spotted a car parked erratically, half on the pavement, half in the street. Its headlights were on, but the engine was eerily silent, and a window was slightly ajar. As the officer cautiously approached, a scene of unimaginable horror unfolded. Slumped in the driver's seat was a young man, drenched in his own blood. It was a sight that would haunt anyone. A brutal end. The victim had suffered numerous stab wounds to his chest, and chillingly, a blue rope was tied around his neck, fastened to the headrest. Within minutes, a swarm of forensic experts and seasoned detectives descended upon the scene. Their immediate questions were stark. Who was this young man, and who had committed such a heinous act? Identifying the victim while the forensics team meticulously scoured the vehicle for clues. Detectives used the car's license plate to identify its owner. Their investigation led them to the home of Arash Ghorbani. A distraught Rahim confirmed he owned the car, but his son Arash was the primary driver. The news of Arash's brutal murder shattered Rahim and his wife. Amidst their grief, investigators learned more about Arash Ghorbani, a 19-year-old engineering student at Oxford University, dreaming of following in his father's footsteps. Everyone who knew him spoke of a kind, respectful young man, never involved in trouble. The elusive clues at the crime scene. Forensic specialists held onto a sliver of hope. Perhaps the killer had left a fingerprint, a DNA sample, or even a drop of their own blood. The area around the car was searched extensively for the murder weapon, but it was nowhere to be found. Before moving the car for laboratory examination, a relatively new technique was employed: fiber collection. The vehicle's interior and Arash's body were painstakingly covered with a specialized adhesive tape, designed to capture any fibers from the perpetrator's clothing. This was a time-consuming and costly process, with results potentially taking months, but it was a crucial step. Its fibers often proved to be the only available evidence. Initial investigations and a fateful tip: Arash's body was transported to the morgue, the car to the lab, and detectives began interviewing residents in the vicinity of the crime, hoping for witnesses. Sadly, no one had seen or heard anything. The investigators then returned to the Ghorbani family, hoping they might shed light on who would want Arash dead. It was then that Arash Ghorbani, Arash's father, declared with certainty, "I know who did this to my son." He urged them to investigate Mana's family, Arash's girlfriend. A forbidden love. Rahim recounted Arash and Mana's 15-month relationship, describing how Mana had fallen for Arash instantly, a love he reciprocated. However, Mana's family staunchly disapproved of Arash. Conversations with Arash's friends corroborated this, revealing the animosity between Arash and Mana's elder brother, Mujibur Rahman. This information immediately cast suspicion on Mujibur. 431. A raid and a questionable find. Detectives swiftly moved on the Rahman family home at 7 a.m., startling the entire family. Police announced their intention to search the premises. They proceeded to Mujibur Rahman's room. Mujibur had recently returned from a trip to Spain with friends, bringing back several knives. All were seized along with his clothes for forensic examination. Mujibur Rahman was then arrested and taken for questioning, where his DNA and fingerprints were taken. Had they found their man, or was there more to this intricate puzzle? the family's disapproval under interrogation. Mujibur articulated his family's stance on his sister's relationship with Arash. "We are a devout Muslim family of Indian descent," he stated, "and a premarital relationship is forbidden," he explained. That his father desired a religiously observant Muslim husband from a similarly devout family for Mana, and Arash did not fit that description. While Arash was Muslim, his upbringing was more liberal. His father, born in Iran, had decided to leave Islam and encouraged his children to choose their own faith. This stark difference in values made Mana's parents vehemently oppose the union, demanding the relationship end. But Mana was deeply in love and refused. Escalating conflict and a secret pregnancy, the situation escalated, with Mana's father and brother resorting to violence. Mana fled, seeking refuge with Arash. During their time together, she became pregnant. When Rahim, Arash's father, learned of the pregnancy, he offered to cover all expenses and facilitate their marriage to appease Mana's family. Plans for the wedding began. However, Mana's mother unexpectedly encountered her at a mall. Mana's pregnancy was undeniable. Her mother persuaded her to return home, and the family learned of the pregnancy. A suspicious denial during Mujibur Rahman's interrogation. When asked if he knew about Mana's pregnancy and their wedding plans, he feigned surprise, claiming it was the first he'd heard of it. The detective, unconvinced, pressed him, "How could your sister be pregnant, and everyone know but you?" Pinpointing the time of death meanwhile, forensic experts meticulously reviewed Arash's phone records to establish a timeline. They discovered Arash had called Mana multiple times that evening. His last call confirmed he was leaving his house at 8:45 p.m. to pick her up. The journey typically took 15 minutes, yet Arash never reached her home. His body was found approximately 500 meters from Mana's house, indicating the murder occurred around 9 p.m. 7:54, the tiny clue, and the missing weapon. The forensic team, searching every nook and cranny of Arash's car, noticed a small, seemingly insignificant screw near the handbrake console. This seemingly minor detail would later prove to be crucial. Given the 46 stab wounds Arash sustained, the car was drenched in blood, suggesting the perpetrator's clothes and potentially the perpetrator themselves would have been covered in blood or even injured. Any trace of the killer's blood in the car would provide a definitive identification. Fingerprints and swabs were collected and sent to the national database. The rope around Arash's neck was also meticulously examined, with investigators theorizing the killer might have been in the back seat, restraining Arash while tightening the rope. This might yield skin cells or DNA, a dead end, and a startling revelation, however. To the detective's frustration, no DNA was found on the rope, nor were any fingerprints or blood traces from the assailant found. The case grew increasingly complex. The medical examiner's report further complicated matters, stating there were no signs of strangulation. This suggested the rope was placed after death and was not the cause. But why was it there if not used in the killing? Mujibur's alibi in the surveillance trail, Mujibur Rahman, was re-interviewed. Pressed for his whereabouts on the night of the murder, the crime was estimated to have occurred around 9 p.m. Mujibur claimed he went to sleep at 8 p.m., woke at 9 p.m., and left the house at 9 p.m. He then boarded a bus towards the city center at 9:30 p.m. Fortunately for investigators, England is dotted with surveillance cameras. Mujibur was indeed captured on the bus camera at 9:30 p.m., dressed in a white shirt and black trousers, appearing calm and normal, certainly not like someone who had just committed a murder. A seemingly clear path surveillance footage tracked him disembarking at his stated stop. Mujibur claimed he withdrew money from an ATM, which was confirmed by nearby security cameras. He then entered a cafe, again caught on camera. At 3 a.m. he took a taxi home, went to sleep, and awoke to the police knocking. His room was searched. The knives and the clothes he wore that night seen on camera were seized and sent for forensic analysis. A lack of evidence yet, forensic. Experts found no evidence on the knives linking them to the crime, nor on his clothing. Crucially, there were no matches between Mujibir's fingerprints or DNA samples and any found in Arash's car. Simply put, there was no physical evidence to link Mujibur Rahman to the murder. All they had was his disapproval of his sister's relationship, which was not enough to hold him. He was released on bail, but the investigation pressed on, desperately seeking a new lead. The weapons story and a new theory, the medical examiner confirmed Arash sustained 46 stab wounds, all to the chest, inflicted by a knife approximately 7 cm long. Significantly, there were no defensive wounds on Arash's body, leading detectives to hypothesize that the killer was not alone. They believed an accomplice was likely in the back seat, restraining Arash with the seatbelt while he was being brutally stabbed. The missing piece of the puzzle. The missing piece of the puzzle during the examination of Arash's clothing. The forensic expert made a startling discovery: a small piece of metal in Arash's shirt pocket. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be related to the screw found earlier. Near the handbrake, it seemed to be a broken part of the same screw. This crucial piece of evidence was meticulously preserved. A breakthrough. The discarded evidence 2 days after the murder, around noon. Construction workers in a secluded area witnessed a red car pull over. The driver swiftly got out, discarded a bag in a deserted spot, and sped off. Though the workers couldn't clearly see the man's face, their curiosity led them to investigate the discarded bag. What they found inside compelled them to call the police immediately. The murder weapon revealed the plastic bag held the breakthrough evidence detectives had been searching for. Inside were a cap, a blue hoodie, thick black gloves, and a broken knife. Could this be the murder weapon? Could it bear the killer's DNA or fingerprints, or even Arash's blood? The knife was rushed to the forensic lab. Blood matching Arash was found on the blade, which was bent, a testament to the ferocity of the attack, likely hitting chest bones. The handle was also broken from the sheer force, with one of its screws fractured in two. One half had fallen into Arash's shirt pocket. The other lay near the handbrake. They now had their murder weapon. Unraveling the threads next, the clothing in the bag was analyzed. The blue hoodie had Arash's blood on it. The cap proved even more vital. It was easy to find DNA on the forehead area, where it made contact with skin, and indeed, the cap yielded DNA belonging to Mujibur Rahman. Finally, they had concrete physical evidence linking Mujibur to the crime. The cap, bearing his DNA, was in the same bag as the murder weapon. He was arrested for premeditated murder. But the story was far from over. A family conspiracy under interrogation, 18-year-old Mujibur Rahman was confronted with the overwhelming evidence: the cap, the hoodie, the knife. He vehemently denied any involvement, claiming the cap was old and he couldn't remember who might have taken it or where he lost it. He offered no logical explanation for his DNA on the cap. Simultaneously, investigators discovered the red car witnessed by the workers belonged to Mujibir's father. This raised suspicions that Mujibir wasn't acting alone. The father's involvement, Mujibir's 44-year-old father, was arrested and charged with involvement in the murder and obstruction of justice. During his interrogation, Chomer denied discarding the bag or having any involvement in Arash's death. However, forensic analysis revealed another individual's DNA on the cap, Chomer Ali's. This confirmed at the very least that he had handled the cap in the bag and attempted to dispose of the evidence. The third perpetrator, the most damning piece of evidence, was yet to come: the thick black gloves. Arash's blood was on the exterior, confirming they were worn during the attack. The true shock came when investigators noticed a small cut on one of the fingers. Inside the glove, they found traces of blood, not Arash's. Given the brutality of the attack, it was hypothesized that the knife handle had broken and the blade had sliced between the killer's fingers, causing an injury and leaving their blood inside the glove. The DNA from inside the glove belonged to a third person, distinct from Mujibur or his father, Chomer. Same DNA was also found on the cap and the blood-soaked hoodie. Who was this third individual? The youngest accomplice investigators decided to take DNA samples from every member of the Rahman family. The shocking truth emerged. The DNA belonged to the youngest son, Manor, only 15 years old, reconstructedly arrested. Reconstructing. The crime detectives theorized the horrifying scenario. Manor was in the front passenger seat, wielding the knife as evidenced by his DNA in the glove. The absence of defensive wounds on Arash suggested that Mujibur, being older and stronger, was in the back seat, restraining Arash with the seatbelt while Manor delivered the 46 fatal stab wounds. Manor, despite his claims of a minor hand injury, for which he requested a bandage, denied any involvement during questioning. He claimed he was close to his sister, knew she loved Arash, and even spoke with Arash, asserting he had no issues with the couple marrying. However, when confronted with the irrefutable DNA evidence from the glove, and blood-soaked hoodie, and his fingerprints on the exterior of the bag, Manor fell silent, unable to provide any explanation. The mastermind's motive, while the evidence against Manor and Mujibur was compelling. Investigators were convinced that the father, Chomer Ali, was the true mastermind, his role far exceeding mere evidence disposal. They believed he had meticulously planned the murder and incited his two sons to carry out Arash's execution. During Chomar's interrogation, he continued to deny being the instigator. However, the detective laid out the stark reality Mana loved. Arash, a union her family opposed, wanting her to marry someone else. She fled only to return months later, pregnant with Arash's child. Damer, driven by a desire to cleanse the family's honor, chose to make Arash pay the ultimate price. Chomer had tragically destroyed all their futures, convincing his 15-year-old and 18-year-old sons to end the life of a 19-year-old. A symbol of defiance and a tragic revelation from their experience with similar honor killings, detectives suspected Chomer had chosen his youngest son, Manor, to carry out the act, believing he would receive a lighter sentence due to his age. The rope around Arash's neck, not the cause of death, was seen as a symbol, a message of triumph and subjugation. It was believed Chomer didn't care if they were caught. His primary concern was to wash away his shame and eliminate Arash. The biggest shock came after their arrests. Arash's father, Rahim, requested the lead detective inform the Rahman family that he was willing to raise Mana's baby once it was born. Rahim was stunned when the detective informed him there was no baby. Mana had aborted the pregnancy, likely. Under extreme duress from her family, justice served finally. In November 2005, the trial began. The father and his two sons pleaded not guilty to all charges. Not one of them confessed, nor did they show any remorse. Ultimately, the jury unanimously found all three guilty. They were sentenced to life imprisonment. Manor, the youngest, would be eligible for parole after 14 years, meaning a minimum of 14 years in prison before he could apply for release. Mujibur Rahman would be eligible for parole after 16 years. Chomer Ali, the mastermind who incited his sons, would be eligible for parole after 20 years. In 2021, Manur applied for parole, but the outcome remains unknown online. It is likely all three remain incarcerated. Concluding thoughts. This case is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences when cultural traditions collide with individual freedom, leading to unspeakable violence. It's a tragedy born of a misguided sense of honor, leaving a trail of ruined lives. What are your thoughts on this heartbreaking case? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and keep seeking the truth.